Okay, good morning. Welcome to currently bi-weekly live yoga practices. My name's Joanna. I'll be guiding you for today's session. And for today's practice, we're going to be looking at a Hatha style practice for developing core stability. As we know, our core is integral to our entire yoga practice, and not just that, but in the way we move around in our day-to-day lives. The core is the bubble wrap that protects our backs, and sometimes it can get a little bit neglected. So today I just wanted to bring it to our attention. This practice will be a little bit more workshopy, I think. So bear that in mind if you are practicing. It might not be that consistent flow that you're used to, as I might break down some of the things that I'm offering. You might find as well that there is not just traditional Hatha asana in this practice. You might see some Pilates inspired exercises and some exercises that I have found beneficial through my time as a professional dancer and now as a yoga teacher. So these exercises might be something that you incorporate in a vinyasa practice, especially if you know that maybe your peak pose is going to be something very engaging in the core, or maybe a balancing asana where the core is essential. You might start a practice with some core exercises, or you might weave some core into your practice before you reach your peak pose, just to stimulate and bring awareness to that space. If you're teaching a Hatha practice like we're going to be doing today, you have the opportunity to break things down and move through shapes and exercises a little more slowly. This is great, especially if you have a lot of beginners in your practice who just need the time to really bring the movement and shapes into their body safely. So I hope there's some useful bits in here for you today. Feel free to participate, feel free to simply observe and take notes on anything that you find you need or is useful. For today's practice, you will need a blanket if you have one available, and access to a couple of blocks if you have them also. If you don't, then you could just grab a cushion off the couch and make shift with that. So I'll meet you on your mat. We'll start in Sukhasana, a tall, comfortable seat. Make sure you hydrate. Okay, so for my Sukhasana, I love to sit on a block just to elevate the hips slightly, and I'm also really enjoying the comfort of a blanket underneath the crossed ankles. Feel free to do the same or choose your version of the Sukhasana for today. And then bring your hands onto your thighs in a comfortable position. Relax your shoulders down your back. Start to soften or close your eyes and receive your breath. Starting to notice how you are in terms of how your physical body feels as you sit and find stillness. And in terms of your energy today, do you have a lot of energy to give to this practice? Or are you feeling a little depleted? Do you need to take it a little easier? Maybe watch and observe some of the things. Just notice And may you be kind and compassionate to yourself throughout this practice. May we listen intently to our bodies. May we move with breath and not withhold breath. And let's together take a collective breath. Take a big inhale through your nose and a big exhale from the mouth. And if that felt good, one more time, inhale. Exhale. Nice. Now inhale, float both of your arms up to the sky and interlace your fingers. Turn your palms up to the ceiling. Keep breathing in. As you exhale, bring your chin to your chest, round your spine, bring your tailbone forward, bring your hands forwards. Breathe into your lovely long spine. And use your inhale to roll all the way up through the back. And place your hands to the back of the head, elbows wide. Lean your head back into your hands, lifting your chest, lifting your chin slightly. Breathing across your collarbones, your sternum, in this gentle upper back bend. So bringing awareness to the spine at the beginning of a core stability class can really help to indicate how the spine is doing, where there might be sensitivity, and how we can use the core and invite more strength and stability into the core in order to support our back. Return your head to center and slowly release your hands onto your thighs. Take an inhale, lift your shoulders up, and an exhale to roll your shoulders down your back. Take an inhale, lift your right arm into the sky, and take a side stretch to the left with your left hand or left forearm supporting you on the floor. Your top arm is nice and long. You're rooting down equally on both sides of your pelvis. Moving your shoulders away from your ears. Maybe you're looking down, maybe you're looking forwards, or maybe you're looking up, depending what feels good on your neck. And then hug your navel to spine. Use your inhale to come up, using your oblique muscles to support you. Once you get to the top, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lift the shoulders again. And then exhale as you reset, roll the shoulders down. Inhale, left arm to the sky. Take your side stretch over to the right hand or forearm supporting you on the mat. This is a lateral flexion. Breathing space and length into your side body. Observing how this affects your spine. Taking note of all these shapes we're bringing the back into. And then use your inhale to bring yourself back to center using those core muscles and hands to thighs. One more time, lift the shoulders up. And one more time, roll the shoulders down your back. Lovely. So we're actually going to come on to our backs now. You're going to need one of your blocks. So finding your way down when you're ready, you can either roll to your side and onto your back, or you could use your hands or forearms to support you as you come down. You're going to use this block to fill the space between your inner thighs. So you want the block on its skinniest width, or at its skinniest width, and that slides in between your inner thighs. You'll press your inner thighs into that block so you have that engagement there throughout this exercise. Your heels are quite close to your glutes, and your feet are pressed down into the mat and they are parallel and hip distance apart. So your feet and your legs are parallel and hip distance. What we don't want to do is let the knees or hips or feet go too wide. So you're pulling everything towards your midline and towards your core. So with this engagement through your inner legs, feel that. And then pull your belly button down towards your spine, down towards the floor. And already there is a huge core engagement here. And maybe this is your practice, especially if you have a weaker core or you're new to core exercises. This is your practice today, drawing everything in and down. So inner thighs engaged, belly button to spine, hands flat on the mat, but not pressing into the floor, just very gentle. So all the pulling down is happening at your core. Your head is directly facing up to the sky. So from the back of your head along the length of your spine, you're in this nice neutral long line. If you want to take this further, I'll add on. Feel free to come along, feel free to watch. So further to this, we're going to bring the knees into the chest, so both feet come off the floor, and then you're going to float the legs into the sky. You're hugging that block, and you're either flexing your feet completely, as if you're pushing the soles of your feet to the ceiling, or you're just flexing the toes like you're wearing stiletto shoes. Either way, whichever creates more engagement through the feet and lower legs for you, do that. There can be a little softness through the knees, as you can see on me. You don't have to have the legs completely straight, but I do want you to feel that engagement through your inner legs, through the squeeze, and flexion through the feet. From here, continue to draw your belly button down to your spine. And again, maybe this is your practice today. Maybe this is enough. Great. Adding on, your hands can come behind your head with your elbows wide. Again, maybe this is your practice today. Look at how many layers we've just added onto this, depending on whether your students are beginners or whether they are maybe looking for a little more challenge or advancements today. So here we get into the depth of this exercise. It's in 4 parts. So I'll just show it you first. On the first inhale, you're going to lift the back of your pelvis off the floor. Now you'll notice it's pretty much just the tailbone lifting, belly button pulling down. Keep that pelvis lifted. As you exhale, lift your head and shoulders away from the floor, belly button pulling in. On your next inhale breath, lift your head a little more, lift your pelvis a little more, pull the belly button down. And then as you exhale, you're going to lower all of that back to the floor. And that's the full exercise. Now, I'm just going to make a tiny little adjustment for my body. So I have a little bit of back sensitivity. So I'm just going to add just a little bit of extra padding. So I'm just going to add the padding of a blanket, just very thinly folded under the spine, because the bony vertebrae of the spine are pressing too hard into the mat when we come into that kind of rounded position, and it's creating too much pressure. So for me, this is what I'm going to be doing. So feel free to offer that to your students, and already that feels tons better. Okay, so let's try that a couple more times so that we can feel it in our bodies. So prepare, squeeze the inner thighs, flex the feet, hands behind the head. As you inhale, lift the back of the pelvis off the floor. As you exhale, lift your head and shoulders off the floor. As you inhale, lift everything a little bit higher. As you exhale, lower all of that back to the mat. Let's do that again. Inhale, lift the back of the pelvis. Exhale, head and shoulders. Inhale, everything squeezes higher and up. Exhale, lower all of it back to the mat. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, back of the pelvis up. Exhale, head and shoulders up. Inhale, everything a little higher. Exhale, returning to the mat. Nice. Now bend the knees, remove your block, and bring your knees to your chest and your hands around your shins. Exhale your breath, maybe rock a little bit across the lower back, and just pay attention to where that exercise showed up in your body. For me, it was very much concentrated in the lower abdomen below the belly button. Perhaps for you, it was more in the upper abdomen. Simply notice, or maybe you felt more of the engagement through your inner thighs. Okay, when you're ready, let us change our exercise. Again, this one is very much inviting you to draw your belly button down to the mat. So if you're finding that that work is really stimulating for you, then make sure that as I add on the layers, you get off the bus at your stop, you find the right pieces of this next exercise that maintain safety through your spine and that core engagement. What we don't want to see is the middle or lower back popping off the floor, or we don't want to see the belly starting to pop up. Sometimes we can start to create almost this like sausage-like position through our abdomen when the belly isn't fully engaged. So the core muscles will start to pop up and out rather than draw down and in. So for this next exercise, you're going to check in that your knees are stacked over your hips and your shins are parallel with your mat. So you're making a 90-degree angle with your legs and your hands are resting very lightly on your knees. Your arms are long. For this one, your legs aren't glued together. Your legs are your hip distance apart, so your hips are very much stacked over, your knees are very much stacked over your hips. In this position, there is a ton of core going on. So if you feel like this is more than enough for you, then this is where you stay, especially if you're really having to concentrate on drawing your belly down to the mat. I'll add on to here for those who want it, for those who need it. So we can begin with toe taps. You're going to tap your right toes down to the mat, and then you're going to bring your right knee back to your right hand. Tap your left toes down to the mat, and then bring your left knee back to your hand. The further out you tap your toes, the more intense, more challenging this becomes on your core. So for beginners, you might encourage them to tap the right toes quite close down to the mat, close to the glute. For those looking for a little more, you might encourage them to tap those toes out a little bit further. Keep bringing those knees back over the hips, trying not to allow the knees to start coming into the chest too close, because that is going to make it easier. Of course, if you need that today, then please take it. Okay, so one more piece to add to this is coordination. So as you tap your right toes down to the mat, so we'll do that next. As you tap the right toes down, you can extend your left arm all the way back behind you, reaching to the back of the room. And then pull everything back to center, hands to kneecaps, knees to hands. When the left toes tap to the floor, the right arm extends back behind you. And then again, pull everything back to center. Let's do that once more on each side, just so that we can get a handle on what it looks like and what it feels like. And then I'll just do one more round of it so that you can see it with breath cueing. You will inhale as you extend arm and leg away, and then you'll exhale as you bring everything back to center. One more time. Inhale to reach arm and leg away. Exhale to bring everything back to center. Hug your knees back into your chest and rock a little bit across your spine. And I'm not sure about you, but I'm feeling a lot in my core and especially in the lower abdomen. So hopefully this is stimulating your core too, warming you up from the inside out. I'm going to offer one more piece here on our backs while we're here. So again, this involves the knees bent and to the chest. And your arms for this one are going to be out wide in a T shape with your palms facing down to the floor. You can encourage your students to put a block between their inner thighs if you want them to feel that engagement again. It might also feel good for students who have difficulties when it comes to twisting and bringing their legs down to the floor. Maybe having the support of a prop in between the legs could help. Keep the head to the sky for this one. And we're simply going to start lowering but hovering our knees over to the right, trying your best to keep your shoulder blades on the floor. Using your inhale to come back to center, pulling your belly button down to the mat. And again, over to the left. You can do this nice and slowly, just moving the knees as much as they want to go, keeping the shoulder blades to the floor, and then pulling your way back, drawing belly button to spine. Again, to make it a little more challenging, you can encourage your students to bring their knees a little further away from their chest, more towards that 90-degree angle with the legs. Moving over to the right, rooting the shoulders down to the floor, and then pulling everything back to center. So notice that the knees and legs are never touching the floor. It's a simple action of hovering and maintaining shoulders to the mat. Once you can't go any further, then the work is to pull your body back to center with your core. Let's just do that one more time on each side. So again, with the breath, it's your exhale to bring the legs down, and it's your inhale that pulls you back to center. Exhale, knees hovering to the left. And inhale, drawing them back to center. Exhale in center, release your block, hug your knees in, rock across your back. And when you're ready, you can just roll onto your side and take a couple of breaths there. And then you can press into your top hand to bring you upright. And we're going to move into a tabletop position. So if you are working with a blanket today for any sensitivities, this is where the blanket will be handy for knee sensitivity. So you would place your knees to your folded blanket. And you come into tabletop position. So your hands are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips. So before we get into our next piece of core, it might be a great idea to just add a little fluidity and movement through the hips and back, just to check in and make sure everything's still feeling happy and healthy. So once you're in tabletop, just inviting any movement that feels good, whether that's cycling through your cat-cows, whether it's some little rocks of your hip side to side, any intuitive, instinctive movement. Maybe you want to settle back into a child's pose. That might feel nice on your lower back. Nice big exhale breaths. Nice. Now bringing a block onto the mat in front of you. We're going to have the block at its lowest height, but at its widest point in front of us. And then we're going to lower our forearms either side of that block. Your forearms are parallel and your forearms are hugging against your block. So there is engagement through your arms and shoulders. From here, we're going to come into dolphin plank. So you can either keep your knees on the floor, but just walk your knees back a little bit and bring your pelvis forwards. So you're making more of a diagonal line from your kneecaps to the crown of your head with your shoulder blades moving down your back. Or you can tuck your toes here and lift your knees away from the floor and continue with the shape from this position, extending forwards with the crown of your head and pushing away with your heels. This involves a lot of core, and it's also a great way to activate the shoulders, especially if you're going to maybe be coming into some inversions or arm balances. This might be a great shape to practice. It's also very heat building. So if you're doing a heat inspired practice, this would be a great shape. To add on to here, to maybe find a little more challenge, would be to play with walking the feet in. So this is for those students with the knees off the floor. What would it feel like to walk your walk your feet a little closer to your arms and that block? And then what would it feel like to take the feet back, walking into your plank, re-establishing the position and engaging the core? We'll do that one more time, walking the feet towards the arms, towards the block, pelvis lifting, press forearms down and in, and then walking the feet back, finding that nice long plank position, crown of the head extending. Lower the knees if you're not already. Come up onto your hands, exhale your breath, and remove your block. Core is challenging. It's heat building, and hopefully it is quite empowering to feel that strength in your body. I'd love for us now to just find a bit of space and length in the front lines of the torso with puppy pose. So walk your hands forwards and wide, keep your pelvis high, and start to soften your heart, your chin, your chest towards the floor, or maybe your forehead to the floor. If this feels too much around your shoulders or down your arms, then please add more bend to your elbows. If you don't like your head so low, you can always bring a block under your forehead or under your chin for this. Try and keep the pelvis high and soften your heart towards the floor so you can begin to feel that spaciousness in the front lines of your torso where we have been stimulating and activating today. Lovely. And then coming out of this pose, pressing into your hands and walking your hands back towards tabletop. Let's spread the fingers now, tuck the toes, and find a downward facing dog, lifting the pelvis towards the sky, and then hugging the heels back and down towards the mat. Maybe shaking the head a little bit and taking a few cleansing breaths here. Similar to what we just did in our dolphin plank, we can activate the core from here in our downward facing dog. So as you inhale your breath, start to roll forwards from the tailbone all the way along the spine to the crown of the head until you reach your plank position. Now, once you're in plank, again, feel free to lower your knees here if that supports your core and back a little better. Otherwise, have your knees away from the floor, activating the core in this shape, shoulders over wrists. Use your next inhale to lift your pelvis to the sky, pulling your belly button towards your spine, finding your downward facing dog. And exhale your breath. Let's try that again. Inhale, ripple forward, starting from the pelvis, all the way up the spine to the crown of the head. Maybe once you're here, you'll take a couple of inhales and exhales to challenge your balance, your stamina, and your core strength. And then when you're ready, use your inhale to draw up from the pelvis and exhale into downward facing dog. One more of those. Inhale to roll and ripple forwards, finding your plank pose. Exhale in your plank. Take another full inhale here. Full exhale here. And then inhale, lift the back of the pelvis to the sky. And exhale as you hug your heels back and down. Lovely. Further to this, so this next one is a little more active in terms of coordination and movement. You can do this from your downward facing dog. You can do this from tabletop if that feels better, especially if you're dealing with any shoulder injuries or any wrist injuries. You might not want to do this from down dog if it's creating too much pressure through the arms and wrists. So from your down dog or tabletop, option to inhale and lift your right leg into the sky. Hug your right knee into your chest and round your chin to your chest so you can give your kneecap a kiss. And then inhale to lift that right leg back to the sky. Let's try that again. Drawing your knee to your chest, rounding your back, pulling your belly button in. And inhale, lift the leg back to the sky. One more time, hug the knee to the chest, round the spine, give the kneecap a kiss. And then lift that right leg back up. What would it feel like now to bring your right knee to your right elbow? See if the two can touch, engaging your obliques. And then inhale to float the right leg to the sky. What would it feel like to take your right knee across to your left elbow, as high up the left arm as you can? Inhale that right leg back to the sky. Try that again. Right knee to right elbow. See if the two can touch. And then back to the sky. And then right knee to left elbow, go across your body. And right leg back to the sky. Whew. Lower that right foot. Lower your knees if they're not already. Maybe sit back on your legs. Maybe take a child's pose. And just feel, just notice. That one is very heat building. And it's not just activating the front of the abdomen, but you're also getting into the sides of the abdomen, into the oblique muscles. So again, that's a great piece to invite into practices that are a little more fiery. Maybe those strong power vinyasa practices. Maybe if you are, like I said, kind of going to be coming into some inversions or arm balances, you might find that really handy exercise to incorporate into your vinyasa flow. But also, it's great to create strength and fire in our hatha practices. And maybe that's an exercise you want to include. Maybe you're teaching a practice based on core stability, like we're doing today, more of a workshop style class. Maybe you're teaching about the solar plexus chakra, this space of strength and will and power. And maybe something like this would be a way to play with those sensations in the body. I just want us to do it on the other side so that we feel balanced, and then we'll start to kind of taper things down and wind down. So finding either tabletop or downward facing dog once again, and let us begin. Take an inhale breath, float your left leg to the sky, any amount. Hug your left knee to your chest, round your back so you can give your kneecap a kiss. And inhale, lift the left leg back up to the sky. Exhale, bring the knee to the chest, round the back so you can kiss your kneecap. And inhale, lift the left leg to the sky. Now let's see if we can take the left knee to the left elbow or even higher up the left upper arm. Nice. And then hug that left leg back to the sky. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Go across your body. Inhale, left leg to the sky. One more time, left knee to left elbow or upper arm. Inhale, left leg to the sky. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Inhale, left leg to the sky. Exhale, left foot to the floor. And then widen the knees, settle back into your child's pose, Balasana, and take some breaths. If you want to put a block under your head, feel free. If you want to put a block between your pelvis and your heels, feel free. Arms can be straight or arms can have a soft bend through them. Shoulders relaxed. Lower belly relaxed between the thighs. So I think this is a really important piece. When we engage the core, when we focus on the core, there's a lot of pulling in and pulling down. There's a lot of tightening and contraction. So it's really wonderful to counter that with a little bit of softness and release and relaxation, because we don't want everybody to walk around with that taut, tight, pulled in core all the time, because it's simply not healthy for the nervous system, for the flow of energy and prana through our bodies. So be sure to invite and give permission for soft belly breathing, relaxed bellies, not pulling in, not holding, not clenching. And just so that your students can feel that and experience that. Maybe they've never allowed themselves to breathe down into their belly since they were children. So it can be very vulnerable and very sensitive. So child's pose is a nice place for exploration because you're in this protected shell, your body is close to the ground, no one can see your belly, you are protecting it. So this would be a nice place to invite in a bit of belly breathing, or wrapping the breath around the lower back and lower belly, letting the belly soften, just noticing. And then walking the hands towards the legs and rolling up through the spine. Coming around to a seat once again. And as we come down to the back, giving the option now to engage the core on the way down. So making sure there's lots of room behind you, legs extending in front of you, feet are flexed, and your legs are your hip distance apart. Spine is long and arms are in front of you in parallel. Draw in the core, engage the legs, the tops of the legs, and then using all of that core stability, all of that strength to roll down the spine one vertebra at a time. Nice and slow, taking as much time as you like. Once the back of the head is relaxed, then allow the arms and legs to relax. And this is where you can start to settle and nuzzle the body into Shavasana, into a rest shape. Or it might be where you explore a few last little pieces of movement or shape. Maybe you want to invite your students into a couple more shapes if you have the time. Like a great one would be to come down into supported butterfly pose. Maybe you would put a bolster or blocks along the spine or behind the head, so you have a little bit of elevation and a little bit of extra space and length into those front lines that we have activated. That would be wonderful. Maybe coming into a twist, right and left would feel wonderful. Just wringing out the spine, any tension or tightness remaining. So as you're coming into Shavasana, if you're practicing today, if there's anything intuitive that feels right in this moment, follow that now and incorporate that into the end of your practice. And maybe take note of what that is, what that looks like. And so maybe that becomes part of your sequence whenever you teach this style of class. Shavasana is corpse pose. It's the final pose of practice. It is the most important pose of practice. So make sure you leave a good amount of time for it. Arms slightly wide of the body, legs slightly wide, toes rolling out. Maybe blankets over the body or supporting under the body or behind the head. Maybe an eye pillow. Or maybe just you lying on the floor, sliding all the props out of the way so you're not touching anything and your body can drift in space. No more to do now. I will call you from Shavasana when it's time. And if you have more time to dedicate to your Shavasana today, then please stay as you are. However, if it is time for you to come out now, start to deepen your breath and start to incorporate a little movement to your fingers and toes, into your wrists and ankles. Take a nice full body stretch as you inhale. As you exhale, hug your knees to your chest and rock across your lower back. Eventually rolling to your side and slowly making your way up to a tall, comfortable seat of Sukhasana. Perhaps placing hands to the lower belly or one to belly, one to heart. Reconnecting to that space of strength, that place of stability, that place of inner fire. And thank your body for moving in this way. Thank Thank yourselves for carving out time for this type of practice. And may this way of moving and these exercises serve you in your own life, serve your students as they progress through their practice. May we continue to empower ourselves and each other on our mats. One sealing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. It's my pleasure to guide you always. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.